I'm gonna sound out of breath in this video, and it's because I kinda still am. So hooray. At the time of recording, this happened just yesterday. I want to try and get this posted today, but I'm not sure if that will happen. If you followed my community tab, then you'll know that yesterday I passed out during a blood drive, and the story is both really funny and really scary. Funny for outsiders, scary for me. Now, some context for the context. My whole life sometimes I've just been basically living in a hospital. I have severe anaphylaxis, which we'll get into, along with many other physical disorders. But just note that I've just grown used to needles and stuff like that. It's just a second nature to me. So stuff that might seem traumatic to other people, it's kind of just my life at this point, and I don't really want to unpack it that much, but I want to start off by saying that I am in no way scared of blood drives. This was, however, the first blood drive I'd ever done, and surprisingly, despite everything that I had just said, I am scared of needles. Not like scared, I'll just hold out my arm, but I'm gonna be looking away, and the pain will hurt. I mean, it is a needle after all. Who likes needles? For the first half, I was fine. I was giving blood and everything was fine. I was staying awake. I was talking with my friends who were across and beside me because this happened at my trade school. So yeah, my friends were there. We were all having fun. I had donated a pint, and afterwards they got me up and I was sat down and I was able to have some snacks. Because of my anaphylaxis, I couldn't really eat any of it, but there were Lay's potato chips, which I gobbled up because I love Lay's potato chips. Since it's a trade school, most of the nurses and doctors who were there, well, mostly nurses, were also med students from said trade school. To be clear, we're all in high school. We just leave school half the day to go to this special program. I'm a law enforcement student. They were med students. And of course, they had actual doctors and nurses trained. And of course, they were there. But the students were the ones mostly running the blood drive, of course, with overseers. They wanted to keep us there for a good 15 minutes to make sure nothing bad was happening, and for the first 10 minutes I was good. I was making jokes about how my abuela would be fretting over me after she finds out I dared to donate blood, because I was visiting her later, and she just frets over me. And we live, laugh, love Beetlejuice's abuela. And my one friend got to leave early. He was donating red blood cells or something like that. He was hooked up to a big machine, and I'm pretty sure they kept him longer, like beforehand, so that's why he got to leave a little earlier. So they escorted him back to our class, and I was just kind of sitting there now alone, still talking to the nurses, and all of a sudden everything kind of just turned into two. I remember it started off with my head hurting a little bit, but I get migraines sometimes, so I was just like, oh, okay, maybe it's just a migraine, weirdly timed, but okay, it's a blood drive after all. I'm supposed to be feeling a little out of it. I was surprised that I hadn't up until that point, but very, very soon after, I looked at one of the nurses, and there were two versions of her. Everything was really bright, like the lines on people's faces, not exactly the lines, but the edges were really, really bright, and my head hurt so much, and it was a pain I'd never before experienced. I think I heard someone asking if I was okay, but I can't really remember. I know I kind of leaned over to the side, and after that, I don't really remember. For someone who's never fainted before, or really for anyone who's never fainted before, the absolute and utter pain it was. I didn't think fainting would be that painful. I don't know if it was some special circumstance or anything, but it was so unbelievably painful. I genuinely thought I was dying. I mean, there was light all around me, and all I've ever heard was go towards the light. So in the moment, I was just like, okay, well, I'm dying. Thankfully, one of the student nurses caught my fall and apparently led me to the floor. I don't know. I apparently would have really hurt my head if someone hadn't catched me. I woke up and everything was really, really fuzzy. It was still kind of white. I could see everyone's lips moving, but I couldn't hear them. I was completely deaf. I could feel that I was talking, and I could feel that they were talking, but I couldn't hear them, and that was really, really scary. I saw the school nurse hovering over me, and I actually hadn't recognized anyone in the moment, but I do remember them now, as they are part of the staff that I do actually know, but in the moment I had no clue who they were. I felt myself asking what had happened, and the nurse answered, but I'm pretty sure she just said you passed out or you fainted. I can read lips decently, but not good enough. I could see a bunch of other nurses talking around me, but not to me. I kept saying I can't hear, because I remember that's what I wanted to say. I felt myself saying something, I'm not sure if that was what I said. Immediately, I started to list off my allergies. Basically, I'm anaphylactic to all the following foods, meaning that if I come into contact with them, my throat will close and I will die. And this is something I've lived with ever since I was born. This is just a normal thing to me. And I'm only airborne, which means I simply cannot smell cheese, but it's not that bad. Anyways, I felt myself immediately start reciting, I'm allergic to eggs, peanuts, all dairy, cats, dogs, seafood, gluten, shellfish, and bugs. I remember I was saying it over and over again, just in case they gave me something. I don't know if they would give me something, but rationally in my mind, and honestly, I'm glad that I did this. All the nurses were like, yeah, you should have done that. If they had somehow given me something that I was severely allergic to, then I would have just died on the spot. And for anyone who's wondering, I'm not anaphylactic to cats or dogs. I'm simply allergic to them, but they're kind of in my speech. I always repeat that specific speech, and cats and dogs are just there. Like, I have a bunch of cats, so clearly I'm not that allergic, but it's in the speech, so I have to say it. Everything was still fuzzy, and I still couldn't hear anything, but I felt myself reciting this over and over again. Eventually, they asked me if I could get up and go to the nurse's office. I couldn't really, but I was eventually able to just do so. I still couldn't really see or breathe or anything. Not breathe, I mean, I couldn't hear, Jesus. I could breathe. If I couldn't, this would be a very different video. No matter how out of it I was, I still pointed towards the EpiPen that I had left on the table. I need that. I kept reciting over and over again, eggs, peanuts, all dairy, cats, dogs, seafood, gluten, over and over again. It was drilled into my brain at this point, not necessarily by anyone. My parents had suggested, of course, that I have to remember this. Not even suggested, just straight up told me, I have to know this stuff. But the way that I just recited it, that was all me. I knew for a fact there's no way I'm having anaphylaxis just after fainting. That would be one hell of a double whammy. So I'm out of it. I can barely think. I still have no clue really what's going on, but over and over again, eggs, peanuts, all dairy, over and over. My hearing began to return, and I remember asking, can you call my mama? I need my mom. They had already called my mom, and I eventually was able to talk to her once I was well enough to do so. Apparently I was still very out of it, but I was in it enough to be able to talk to her. Since the bus was leaving soon to go back to our home school, and then our parents would pick us up, or the bus or whatever, the school nurse just didn't simply feel comfortable with putting me on the bus because of what specifically happened while I fainted. Apparently, just before I had begun to fall, I stiffened up and shaked a little. I don't exactly know really what that was, honestly, period, but apparently one of the nurses had called out that I was having a seizure. Another doctor, there were doctors there as well, came over and was like, nope, no, they're fine. I don't think they're having a seizure, but the fact that I had stiffened and begun to shake was definitely a concern. Now, this has happened to a few people who have fainted during blood drives, but the doctors still recommended that I go to see my actual, doctor. So we're going to be starting that appointment soon, just in case. I doubt it's anything. I fainted after all, but still, just in case. And for the rest of the day, I was very out of it. I ended up calling one of those nurse helplines because I was just am I still supposed to feel this bad? Because I felt on the verge of fainting again. I'd never fainted before, so I didn't know if this was normal or not, and really, I was just scared. I ended up sleeping in my mom's room because, really, again, I was just so scared. I thought I had died in the first few moments. I woke up and was confused as to where I was. I thought I was waking up in my bed, and then all of a sudden I see a school ceiling. It was kind of just really scary. I don't feel like I have the right to say that it was traumatic because I've been through worse, but this is something that I've never before experienced, and it was just so scary. I've had surgeries like every year of my life ever since I was a baby, my first one being when I was only 2.5. I should be used to this, but I wasn't, because this was something so new and so scary. So now here I am, recording this at 1 p.m. or 1300 hours, for those who use military time, the next day. I am scared, still, clearly out of breath, and yeah, well, that happened. But my mom came to pick me up, so everyone say thank you, Mommy Beetlegoose. We love you, Mommy Beetlegoose. All in unison, let's go say it. So, yeah, I'm working on a way bigger video right now, but that's obviously gonna have to be postponed a bit, because, you know, my head still hurts. Anyways, the people who did comment concerningly on the community tab, thank you. I really appreciate your worry for me. Thank you so much, and yes, I'm fine now. And I'm donating blood again next month. Let's go!